welcome to the Fiber Broadband Association's Five for Breakfast. We're now in our 24th episode of 2025. Before we kick off, I'd like to thank Wesco, the platinum sponsor of Five for Breakfast. Let me just start with, wow, was Fiber Connect 2025 simply amazing last week? You know, I have to say, in the 40 years I've been in this industry, I have never seen so much energy, excitement, and buzz. You know, our industry is nothing but resilient. You know, while BEAD might take more time than we hoped, our industry has once again stepped up with hundreds of millions of dollars invested in creating US-based manufacturing, millions of homes being connected, and plans to connect tens of millions of homes. You know, because the market has spoken and private investment is connecting them fast. You know, we talked about last week, AT&T now committing to 60 million homes passed. They are halfway there, 30 million this week. Frontier is going to be hit 10 million homes this year. When you couple that with Verizon, that's 40 million homes with fiber. Hawaiian Tel, who was at our conference, love those guys, amazing jobs, investing 1.7 billion to get every home in Hawaii connected, every home connected by the end of next year. T-Mobile going to be getting 12 to 15 million homes passed with fiber. Brightspeed's already passed 2 million homes. They're going to target about 5 million homes with fiber. Ziply, 3.1 million. Google Fiber has now passed over 3 million homes and growing. Altice has 3 million homes with fiber, growing. Consolidated will reach 70% of its footprint with fiber, roughly about 2.1 million. TDS plans for another 1.3 million homes. You know, that's just to mention a few. So, you know, hats off to our industry for really stepping up and putting investment where it needs to be. You know, one of the big surprises for me last week at Fiber Connect 2025 was our Optic Path Rodeo. We were so excited about our program. You know, just 3 years ago, we started with a cohort of 18 students, and now we have over 1,000 Optic Path graduates. 87% are veterans who are fully employed as fiber optic technicians. The rodeo was such a huge hit on the exhibit floor to the point where now the exhibitors are fighting over booth locations close to the rodeo for next year, given how big that crowd was. So anyway, hopefully you guys got a chance to see that. Well, right after our conference ended on Friday, Secretary of Commerce, our good buddy Howard Lutnick, released the revised policy notice for the $42.45 billion NTI BEAD program. So the good news is, after 5 months of waiting around, our industry now has a path forward. So certainty is great. Kind of the bad news is we've lost a year. So all the states that have fully approved final proposals, such as Louisiana, Nevada, and Delaware, and the states that are standing there with final proposals like Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Maine, have to redo their final awards and conduct a benefit of the bargain application round, adding another 180 days if we're lucky. The positive outcome of the revised notice is the elimination of a lot of non-statutory obligations, which will help accelerate deployment. These are in the areas of labor, climate change, net neutrality, local coordination and stakeholder engagement, and rate regulation. You know, and after all this noise about, tech neutrality, I'm pretty confident the outcome in the end is that the lion's share of all these projects will be fiber. The revised rules just makes the job a little more complicated for the state broadband offices. And on that point, I do want to say that the Fiber Broadband Association greatly respects and appreciates all the hard work and dedication that all the state broadband directors and their offices deliver on a daily basis. We got to see a number of our broadband directors last week at Fiber Connect. Those guys work so hard. And our gratitude also applies to all the members of NTIA. Again, these guys all have their hearts in the right place in their efforts to connect rural America. And we hate that after all the hard work they've done the last 3.5 years, that they now have to jump through seemingly more unnecessary hoops. But, the Fiber Broadband Association is here to provide whatever support we can to get the job done and make BEAD the most successful program possible, because this is really all about rural America, and they deserve it. So up in DC, the Senate, the reconciliation process moves to the Senate with the ambitious goal of completion by 4th of July. As part of negotiations, the Senate Commerce Committee Republicans proposed a 10-year moratorium on enforcement of states' AI laws in exchange for broadband expansion funds. It's not clear if this provision will survive the procedural process, and there's also some bipartisan opposition. At the FCC, two of the commissioners left last week, Commissioner Starks and Symington, so the FCC now lacks a majority and will be unable to advance new rules until they get another commissioner confirmed. We're monitoring the Senate action and confirmation of Olivia Trustee, but there's not really a date indicated yet, so we'll stay tuned on that. In the House, on June 4th, the House Energy and Commerce Committee Communications and Technology Subcommittee held a hearing titled AI in the Everyday, Current Applications and Future Frontiers in Communications and Technologies. And we just want to applaud the committee for their leadership in highlighting the importance of fiber on both sides of the aisle throughout the hearing. Now that Fiber Connect 2025 is in our rear view, we are focused on working our way around North America, and our next regional workshop will be in Anchorage, Alaska on July 17th. I'm looking forward to spending some time in Alaska, and hopefully you guys will join us. After Alaska, we'll be hitting Toronto, Spokane, Scottsdale, Kansas City, and then we'll end the year at our premier member meeting in Palm Springs on December 8th and 9th. So this brings us to today's Five for Breakfast. Our guest is Ron Westfall, analyst in residence for HyperFRAME Research, to discuss Agentic AI and the future of fiber, powering scalable, resilient, and intelligent networks. Before I introduce today's guest, I'd like to introduce David Norris from our team, who's going to walk us through some housekeeping items.
Thank you very much, Gary, and thank you to everyone who's joined us this morning. We appreciate it. Before I go over a few logistics, we'd just like to once again thank our platinum sponsor, Fiber for Breakfast, Wesco. Now, as participants, please keep in mind that you are in listen-only mode today. However, we do want to hear from you. To ask a question, please type it into the question box located within the control panel on the lower left-hand side of your screen, and we will get to those questions during the Q&A session with our panelists at the end of today's presentation. This presentation is also being recorded and will be available on FBA's website within 24 to 48 hours, and you can find that recording in the Events tab under the Fiber for Breakfast drop-down option. Finally, we do have a brief feedback survey at the end of today's presentation. If you could take a moment to do so, we'd really appreciate it. We'd love to get your input. And with that, I will hand things back over to Gary to once again introduce our guest and get us started. Gary.
Thanks, David, and good morning. I'm Gary Bolton, the President and CEO of the Fiber Broadband Association. Last week in Fiber Breakfast, we were on the main stage at Fiber Connect 2025, and our guest was James Feger, the Senior Vice President for Product Segments at Lumen, who discussed connecting our AI future. James discussed Lumen's strategy to sell its premium residential fiber business to AT&T, which enables Lumen to focus on building out its critical AI infrastructure to support its enterprise multi-cloud AI first world strategy. So if you missed that session, you can go to our website and watch the replay. Today at Five for Breakfast, our guest is Ron Westfall, analyst in residence for HyperFRAME Research, discuss Agentic AI and the future of fiber, powering scalable, resilient, and intelligent networks. Ron is a prominent analyst in technology and business transformation, recognized as a top 20 analyst by AR Insights and Technology Contributor. His insights are featured in major media such as CNBC, Schwab Networks, and NMG Media. His expertise covers formative fields such as hybrid cloud, AI networking, security infrastructure, edge cloud computing, wireless, wireline connectivity, 5G to IoT. And Ron bridges a gap between the C-suite strategic goals and the practical needs of end users and partners, driving technology ROI for leading organizations. With all that, welcome, Ron. For our audience, please type in your questions to go, and we'll turn things over to Ron.
Thank you so much, Gary. It's always an honor and most appreciative to be on Fiber for Breakfast. I would like to say, first of all, congratulations on a most successful Fiber Connect 2025. Lots of great takeaways. And this ties into our topic today, which is why Agentic AI is vital to the fiber industry. And if you'll turn to the next slide, I will dive right in and talk about, what are some of the key aspects here that I think are very important to understanding why Agentic AI is going to have such a major role in how fiber networks are going to be built. And I would like to focus on here is, what is Agentic AI? I think that's something that's important to address, because I sense there's a little bit of confusion. Already the AI phenomena over the last 2.5 years has been, saturating the market. And there's, I think, been some, marketing games going on. So what I'm going to do is provide a level set as to what I believe is agentic AI. And I think there's a lot of support on this. And what it refers to is artificial intelligence systems that can operate autonomously. And that is, being able to make decisions and take actions without requiring constant human input. And so this is in contrast to what I can characterize as traditional AI models. That is, for example, conversational AI models that many of us have already interacted with, that is using something like ChatGPT. And that is, basically a passive response to prompts from, the human, from us. So in contrast, agentic AI can sense its environment, it can reason through tasks and act independently to achieve specific goals. And certainly the fiber industry is no exception to this. And so what is going on is that these AI agents are designed fundamentally to break down complex objectives into smaller, manageable steps. And that, is allowing them to plan, adapt, and execute tasks across multiple domains. So that includes customer service bots to financial trading systems and naturally fiber network systems. And so an agentic AI in banking, for example, might analyze marketing trends, make investment decisions, and also adjust strategies in real time. And naturally, I'm going to drill down on how this is being implemented in the networking industry and certainly fiber networking. And so what we're seeing is that the rise of agentic AI is transforming industries by delivering more efficient automation, personalized interactions, and proactive problem solving. And one question that I get frequently is, okay, how do you deploy an AI agent? What are the steps that are essential? And certainly I see a lot of organizations enlisting support from suppliers that have AI expertise. And so that, I think, is a very smart step. You don't want to make mistakes in the early part of an AI journey. However, I think there's some key aspects here that will be applicable across any fiber networking implementation. And that is, first of all, you have to understand the setup. And that is, before deployment, a fiber organization or any organization that is looking at deploying a more fiber network or upgrading an existing fiber network needs to configure the necessary infrastructure. And that includes both the on-premises systems or systems that are out on the edge, as well as any related cloud implementation that is involved. Next is the all-important model selection and training. And that is where the AI agents are built using models such as GPT, but any model can be used for this capability. And that is, it's enabling the architecture or custom trained models tailored to specific tasks. And I think this is important. What I'm seeing is that organizations are going to use their own in-house data to have it be trained in order to optimize their AI implementation. And it's certainly applicable to agentic AI. So you don't want to have a situation where you're training across the entire public internet. That is for AI training. That is different. So what we're talking about is both AI training and inferencing at a localized level, and that it's very specific to the organization. And I think what's also essential is that it has to have integration with APIs and other tools that are built really for enabling the agent connect to databases, APIs, external tools to really improve its capabilities as it learns more and more how to best perform for the organization. And then finally, the all-important monitoring and optimization. Once deployed, this agent is continuously monitoring for performance, accuracy, as well as very critical and security with updates that are applied. So this is something that I think is built in, that is really a good news as you start your agentic AI journey. This is something that is a self-learning system that could get better as you go along. And with that, let's turn to the next slide, please. And here I would like to talk about why it's so important to the fiber industry. First of all, I think we all understand that the need for speed is going to increase. And that certainly applies to the data centers where, for example, AI training is going on, but it's going to increasingly apply to AI inferencing, where the edge is going to play a critical role. That is to be able to implement the agentic AI capabilities on, for example, a smartphone, an iPad, AI PC, or any device that is deployed to purposely support the AI capabilities. And that is something that I think is going to not only fuel demand for more fiber connections, as we can see, I think there's a pretty good consensual figure that worldwide FTTH connections will reach 1.7 billion by 2027. And a lot of this is due to the tailwinds from AI workloads. And that certainly applies to small businesses, home offices, but any individual out there who's going to be using just that, the conversational AI capabilities, but also to make themselves smarter, to know what's going on with not just their overall environment, but say their own network connection. And I'll touch on that a bit more. And so I think it's also important to observe, what are the key drivers here? And I think it's really, improving the business. So, for example, we've been hearing about AR and VR for many years, and it hasn't quite taken off as originally expected. However, what I'm seeing is that now AI agents can dynamically adjust, the virtual environments based on user interactions, making experiences more immersive and responsive. I think one interesting use case is construction sites. I'm hearing more and more that AR is being deployed using both human interaction as well as an AI agent to improve construction techniques, or the overall construction process is built-in safety. And that, I think, is a breakthrough of sorts in terms of, okay, here's augmented reality making a real world difference and bolstering a use case, and that is making sure that construction is done on an optimal basis, on a more safe basis, and so forth. Same thing with virtual reality. I think what we're seeing now is that virtual reality is becoming more integral to, say, the research and design out there across multiple industries. So this is really an uplift due to the, I would say, the tailwinds of AI, and specifically agentic AI. And I think another important aspect is that AI is powering more and more digital twin capabilities that's bridging both the physical and virtual worlds. And that is showing industries, including fiber, but also manufacturing and aerospace, the ability to refine processes without disrupting operations. So the digital twin, you can run multiple simulations, figuring out, okay, how can we better implement, say, our operations? How can we improve, again, overall safety and so forth? And this is something that I think will be gathering more momentum. And I think we'll be seeing more digital twins, certainly for fiber network builds, but also, say, for fiber connectivity between data centers and within the data centers as well. And with that, let's turn to the next slide, please. And here, I would like to talk about why agentic AI is so integral to automation. And I think automation is just going to be just that. It's going to strongly correlate with using AI. Basically, the AI workloads, the AI capabilities will quite simply not be suitable for manual human interactions when it comes to, say, the optimal implementation of networks. So I'm seeing automation becoming more prioritized by all the decision makers out there. That includes automation of the fiber network, but also, I'd say, automation across the entire network. And so what is going on is that agentic AI is enabling the organizations, including the operators, to automate complex network managements. And that includes real-time traffic optimization, fault detection, as well as predictive maintenance. And so AI-driven orchestration tools, I think, are really doing just that, reducing human error, the need for manual interventions, as well as minimizing downtime. And this is really, I would say, vital for fiber networks, which require high reliability to support those data-intensive applications, such as AR, VR, but also AI inferencing workloads. And I think this is tying into something that is important to know. How can the AI agents be deployed to optimize the overall performance of a fiber network? And that is, it could be deployed, for example, on on-premises systems that is some organizations are looking at or certainly implementing already, deploying the AI agents within their own data centers. And that is for combination security and compliance reasons, but also, again, across those edge devices. And that includes IoT sensors, IoT sensors that are measuring everything from, say, temperatures to what is going on with the network outside, but also inside and so forth. And that, I think, is really providing the underpinning for making better real-time decisions. And also, where it's needed, enlisting the cloud and using AI agents within the cloud to do just that, make sure that the AI agent's deployed where it needs to be, and that is, it's enabling an optimized implementation for the deployer. And with that, let's turn to the next slide, please. And here I would like to talk about why fiber networks are gaining advantages from agentic AI. And I think we all understand, for example, that it's resource-intensive nature of fiber network deployments, and that includes really looking at it from just not only the inception, but all the way through, and that is including the planning and execution. And what I'm seeing is that agentic AI can streamline this process through automated fiber network design, optimization of GIS data, being able to better respond to actual customer demands, and also fulfilling regulatory requirements, and that includes optimizing routes and minimizing cable length. So all of these multiple factors are being, I would say, improved through agentic AI capabilities, meeting the need for speed, but also, again, automating many of these bandwidth-intensive capabilities. Also, what we're seeing is that the rise of agentic AI applications, along with, for example, generative AI, is that we have language models and real-time analytics that demand those high bandwidth, low latency fiber networks. So this is, I would say, is across the board. There is some debate about, okay, now are fiber networks going to really benefit from increased, say, IA inferencing demand? My perspective is yes, it will. It's already built in, for example, within using fiber optics to better handle massive data throughputs at high-end data centers or even regional data centers, and that's why we're seeing 400 gig, 800 gig implementations already in AI data centers. So as a result, that is going to be essential across all of these workloads. And then that's where we're going to see agentic AI's autonomous network decision-making capabilities, ensuring that the bandwidth can be allocated on a dynamic basis, adapting to constantly fluctuating demands. And this, I think, is going to be critical for advancing the use cases that Gary touched on in terms of what we saw at Fiber Connect, being able to support smart builds and being able to support, for example, smart cities more efficiently. And also, I think we're seeing that from, for example, the question that we put up is that proactive maintenance and resilience is going to be, I would say, another major benefactor for the fiber networks out there. And that is agentic AI is enhancing fiber network reliability by being able to more effectively detect anomalies and potential failures. And this includes fiber cuts that is caused by construction or other environmental factors that we're all familiar with. That includes, for example, public safety emergencies, major weather events, and so forth. And so by analyzing the real-time data, AI can trigger restoration processes before issues unnecessarily escalate, ensure uninterrupted connectivity, and also ensure that mission-critical AI applications are meeting constant uptime requirements. With that, please turn to the next slide, please. And here, yes, I would like to definitely focus on the scalability, sustainability aspects here. I'm seeing that by 2030, data center demand is projected to more than triple. So I've already touched on that, but what I think is important here is that agentic AI is just going to be just that, critical. And in fact, I would say in many use case areas, just that it's a requirement in order to scale the bandwidth demands out there. It's not all about AI workloads. It's certainly about some of the use cases and applications I touched on. But I think this is something that is going to be, I would say, highlighting the capabilities of the systems that have already been implemented. For example, UPS, using Agentic AI, has already claimed saving $300 million annually by eliminating hundreds of miles of driving, as well as reducing their CO2 outputs. And that, I think, is proof in the pudding. Also, I think that the fiber ecosystem is responding. I'm seeing players such as Nokia and Adtran, as well as Cisco, coming out with purpose-built agentic AI systems that are automatically meeting the needs of the fiber network industry. And that includes also, I would say, players such as Render Networks and Vetro, who are demonstrating that you can use AI tools and AI software to improve, again, how to best construct a fiber network. And I think these are very important takeaways, that the impact is already here today, but it's going to increasingly expand. If you'll turn to the next slide, please. And here, I'll just like to emphasize one important aspect, and that is not only is the agentic AI going to be definitely on top of what's going on with the fiber network, but it's also monitoring itself, and that is evaluating its own performance, setting KPIs to really enable the customer to know how effective it's performing. And again, it's implementing continuous improvement. And that, I think, will lead to my next slide here. These are the top takeaways. And I think this is important to understand that agentic AI, it's already proving that it can boost the automation that's required to make AI very successful across fiber networks. And again, optimizing deployment, overall operations, and so forth. Again, it's tying into improving energy efficiencies as well as across-the-board reliability. And again, it's just a strategic requirement. I'm seeing that not only are all the key decision makers looking at this very closely, but it's going to improve business outcomes and tactical implementations of fiber networks. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Gary, and be ready for all-important Q&A.
All right. Well, a lot of audience questions coming in. Thanks, Ron. Yeah, Stephen, so one of the questions came in was, what can FBA, the Fiber Broadband Association, do to educate the industry on potential for AI and accelerate education on the topic? So, I mean, certainly this has been a big focus for the Fiber Broadband Association. We had a big focus at our premier member meeting last fall. We launched new research on AI. We had it prominent at Fiber Day in the Hill to help educate Congress. We also educated the Energy and Commerce Committee going into the hearing on AI. We had a workshop last week, kicked off the Fiber Broadband's Fiber Connect 2025 with a whole AI workshop. And we have a AI working group that's been stood up this year and working. So we are welcome any input and feedback on how we can help educate, not to mention the last two Fiber breakfasts, both with James Fieger of Lumen and today with Ron, been on AI. So yeah, we're a little bit interested in AI and the future. But I wanted to get into one of the questions came in is, what AI orchestration tools are used in AI automation? Excuse me, let me say this again. What AI orchestration tools are used in fiber automation as it relates to AI agents, like a controller, or is it other MCP tool stuff?
Yeah, excellent question. And I think this is something just this week has been a primary topic to your point, Gary. And I would say one good example is Nokia Digital Operations Center, that it's using agentic AI to do just that, orchestrate the capabilities across a fiber network specifically. And along those same lines, I see Adtran's AI Network Cloud implementation also fulfilling that core mission. And I think what's also interesting is that Cisco just announced yesterday its agentic ops system. And so what that is doing is looking at not only the fiber network, but the entire network, what's going on, with the data center, what's going on with the routing and switching components to make sure that if there's an issue, okay, we can say, maybe it is the fiber network, but if it's not, but it's impacting the fiber network, here's a way to have that intelligence to have a smarter, better network as a result. So hopefully this is directly addressing the question as to what solutions out there are meeting that topmost demand.
All right, let's try to see if we can sneak in 2 more questions really quick. Will AI agentic decisions really be autonomous with like no human intervention or approval, or do we see that in the near future?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think, this is the opportunity to drill down on just that. It's up to the organization to decide how the autonomous, the agentic AI implementation can be. I would say for some domains and for some tasks, it will be autonomous from the inception, but you always want to have, I would say, a built-in safety mechanism. That is, okay, the agentic AI system is detecting something very important, but has to report to a human to make sure that, okay, this is going to be a good idea to go ahead and trigger the response, or, okay, we need something else. As a loose analogy, it's akin to, I would say, banking. Yes, the ATM can fulfill a lot of needs, but sometimes you have to have an interaction with a bank teller or a bank person. And I would see a lot of these implementations paralleling that. It's not an ideal analogy, but I think you get the idea. I think you're going to see a good deal of blending, certainly for the early stage implementations.
All right, last question, maybe you can get a short answer, but should a local government going through a network modernization now be considering AI integration with their network management?
Oh, the short answer is yes. And I think it's that fundamental. I think one key takeaway just in the conversations over the last 2 weeks, let alone several months, is that you have to have an AI strategy, or at least you have to be thinking about it and taking steps, because without it, you're going to, I would say, be exposed and risk missing out on very important breakthroughs. And so that is my perspective. Yes is the answer.
All right, well, Ron, really appreciate all your research and your insights. And thanks, everyone, for joining us today. Look forward to getting back together next Wednesday with Gene Kersey, the CEO of Surf Internet, to discuss connecting the Great Lakes region with fiber. So you're not going to want to miss that. Thanks, everybody, for a great Fiber Connect, and we'll see you guys next Wednesday.